So we use a lot of phrases here at Ramsey, and we repeat them very often. And it's interesting how those phrases that we use for our internal culture are really about our fans. It's kind of a reminder of why we do this stuff. Could you share some of those that you find yourself saying often or our leadership team says often?
Yeah, well, I'm wearing this shirt. For the creative team anyway, the leaders on my team got me this for Christmas, and I forgot that I was doing the podcast today. So I'm glad I'm wearing it, but I was doing something else, and I thought this is the day to do it. Well, one of the things a few years ago, like specifically on the creative team, and then I'll talk about Ramsey as a whole, we have a bunch of different businesses within our company. And for years, those things, you'd have the VP and you'd have a designer and a marketing person, and they would go make what they thought was great. And they drive it and they ran it, and it was successful. So take Financial Peace University. You have a leader, you have a creative team, you have marketers, you have this crew that is building this thing, and they're kind of going off to the left. And then you've got the radio show and that crew who's making all their stuff, and they're kind of going off to the right, visually anyway. And then you have insert ELP, our old ELP program, and they will go this other direction. And I just started being, guys, I just want this to go together better. Like it wasn't, it was somewhat subconsciously and somewhat consciously like, I'm going to come up with a phrase that inspires people to do what is asked. It was more like out of frustration. It was just like, guys, I just want this to go better together. I kind of just started doing this hand thing. And it was one of the many things that helped us slowly over the last few years get our brand to be more connected. And
more cohesive and aligned.
I want it all to go better together. And unexpectedly, it's become a thing. And people bought me a shirt about it, And so
to be clear, if you're not watching, the shirt says better together on either side.
It's like a Western-looking shirt with curly scripty.
You can tell a designer made it. Very thoughtful.
Yes.
Looks great.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's one of them. And then there's some others. Like a couple years ago, we just started thinking, what does the team really need to hear this year? Like if we're going to be who we need to be for the people outside of these walls, what do we need to be focused on here? We're expanding, we're growing, we're going to hire a bunch of people over the next few years. And if we're not careful, we can go hire double the amount of people and go from a 600-person company to a 1,000-person company. And all those new folks could come in and they influence our culture in a way that we don't want it to go. We need to tell them who we are and make sure they are one of us. And so a few years ago, it was like, well, let's start thinking about how we do that. And so it sounds really simple. And usually those are the simplest answers. It's not very complicated. I started to just put together a story, be like, hey, if first time was why we work, like why do we work? That was 2018 or 19 or something. So we put a big emphasis on here's why we work, and why we work is for the people outside of these walls. And that's when we had a phrase come around called FOOF, and that's being fans of our fans. If we are just a fan of our fans, we're gonna do all right. Like we work for the people outside these walls. So like last night we had a big event, and we haven't had a big event like that in a while because of the pandemic and all this stuff. And it just felt so good to talk to people out in the lobby again and see what they were doing. Like they are why we work.
Staying connected to the customers.
Staying connected to them. So that year was all about why we work. Here's why we work. It's for the people outside these walls. We are fans of our fans. Here's why we work. It's for the people outside these walls. We are fans of our fans. And it just over and over again. And so now Dave from stage, he goes, we are blessed to be a blessing. Phrases come out of that stuff. But for a little while there, this is why we work. We're fans of our fans.